What if I told you that trying incredibly hard is actually the exact reason you're failing right now?
I mean, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right?
It really does. But, think about it for a second. Whenever we decide to tackle this massive life goal,
Right, like getting in shape or something.
yeah, or learning a new language or just completely overhauling your career, society basically tells us to treat it like this brutal, grueling expedition.
Oh, absolutely, like you're climbing Everest.
Exactly. You're supposed to just stare up at this towering mountain,
Yeah.
take a deep breath, gear up, and just violently force your way to the summit.
Right, just through sheer willpower and exhaustion.
Yeah. And we're sold this idea that if you aren't making these sweeping, dramatic overnight changes, well, you just aren't trying hard enough.
Which is, frankly, a pervasive and just incredibly toxic cultural narrative.
It really is.
We glorify the exhaustion. We basically equate suffering with progress.
Oh, 100%.
But when you actually look at the psychological and even the biological reality of how human beings adapt, trying to change your life by, 100% overnight, it practically guarantees a complete system failure.
It's a recipe for burnout, right?
Direct road to burnout. Because the brain literally perceives that level of sudden, massive change as a threat.
A threat to its survival.
Exactly. So it will actively shut down your efforts just to keep you safe in your familiar baseline.
Wow. Which is exactly why I'm so thrilled about our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to completely dismantle that mountain myth.
It's so needed.
It really is. So if you're listening to this and feeling just like overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what you want to achieve, we're going to show you how these tiny, practically invisible daily shifts are the actual blueprint for monumental life changes.
And mathematically proven, too.
Yes. And our source material for this is completely unexpected. It's so cool. We're pulling from a script from a show called the English Leap Podcast.
Which is fascinating in itself.
Right. It's hosted by this duo named Anna and Jake. Yeah. And originally, this was designed specifically for B1 level English learners.
And that context is exactly what makes this so brilliant.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you're teaching a language to an intermediate learner, you can't just hide behind complex academic jargon.
Oh, right, because they wouldn't understand it.
Exactly. You have to distill these really profound concepts into their absolute clearest, most functional essence.
So it's stripped of all the fluff.
Yes. So while this material was ostensibly created just to teach, like vocabulary and grammar,
It accidentally delivers a masterclass.
accidentally delivers one of the most cohesive, universally applicable masterclasses I've ever seen. I mean, it provides this flawless breakdown of behavioral psychology, the mechanics of identity formation,
And the raw math.
the raw mathematics of personal growth. It's incredible.
So let's get right into the core premise they lay out, which is the 1% rule.
The fundamental baseline of it all.
Right. And this is the reality that being just a little bit better every single day doesn't just add up. It multiplies.
That's the key distinction.
Yeah. The math dictates that a 1% daily improvement results in a staggering 37 times transformation in a single year.
37 times.
Not 37% better, 37 times better.
Which is huge.
It's massive. But to understand how to get there, the source says we first have to understand why we fail.
Right, the trap we all fall into.
And they pinpoint this human obsession with waiting for what they call a movie moment.
Oh, the movie moment is such a phenomenal framing for a very complex neurological trap.
It really paints a picture.
It does. Let's look at why we're so deeply drawn to that montage sequence in a film.
Oh, I love a good montage.
We all do. You know the scene. The hero decides to turn their life around. The heavy rock music kicks in.
See the training gear.
Exactly. We see them sweating in the gym, reading stacks of books, practicing their craft, and it's all compressed into about 3 minutes of screen time.
Right, because Hollywood can't show the boring parts.
Hollywood relies on the montage because it bypasses the boring reality of time. But more importantly, and this is the danger, from a neurological perspective, when we just watch or even imagine that montage for our own lives.
Our brains react to it, right?
Yes, our brain releases a massive spike of dopamine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we get the chemical reward of the transformation without actually having to do any of the actual work.
Precisely. You feel accomplished just thinking about it.
I am completely guilty of this.
Yeah.
I mean, just last year, I decided I was going to become fluent in Spanish.
Okay, let's hear it.
I had my movie moment, right? I bought the giant, expensive textbook.
Of course you did.
I downloaded like 3 different language apps. I sat at my desk on a Sunday afternoon, and I studied for 4 straight hours.
4 hours.
I
Wow.
felt like an absolute genius. I went to bed feeling so incredibly accomplished. And then, I literally never opened that textbook again.
Oh, not even once.
Not once. The sheer thought of doing another 4-hour session on like a tired Tuesday after work was just nauseating.
Oh, totally.
I was hunting for that lightning strike of inspiration. And when it faded, I just had nothing left.
Your Spanish textbook experience is honestly the perfect case study of evolutionary biology working against you.
Okay, wait. Evolutionary biology. Explain that.
Well, our ancestors didn't evolve to pursue abstract 5-year goals.
Right. They were just trying to survive the day.
Exactly. They evolved to secure immediate resources. Find a berry, eat the berry, get a dopamine hit.
Oh, berry hit.
Right. So when you try to apply that ancient immediate reward system to a massive long-term goal like learning Spanish,
You just run out of gas.
you exhaust your emotional fuel instantly. Because motivation is just an emotion.
And emotions change all the time.
Exactly. Like all emotions, it's volatile. It fluctuates based on how well you slept or what you ate or if you had a stressful day at work.
You can't build a foundation on something that fragile.
No, it's impossible to sustain.
Which brings us to this really incredible analogy that Anna and Jake use to counter the movie moment. They say that real change isn't a montage. It's much more like growing a plant.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
It is. Because you don't stand over a patch of dirt and shout at a seed to grow faster.
No, that would look ridiculous.
Right. That's absurd. You just give it a little water, a little sunlight every single day, and you just let time do the heavy lifting.
Time and consistency.
Yeah. And the whole idea of shouting at the plant, it's such a visceral metaphor for the harsh, brutal self-criticism we inflict on ourselves when we try to force immediate results.
It really perfectly captures the futility of our negative self-talk.
Yeah, yelling at yourself doesn't work any better than yelling at a fern.
Exactly. But let me add a layer of complexity to that plant analogy.
Oh, lay it on me.
Because I think there's a real danger in viewing the plant metaphor as entirely passive.
Oh, like you just sit there and things magically happen.
Right. The plant doesn't just sit there doing nothing while the sun hits it. Photosynthesis is an incredibly active, complex cellular process.
Oh, that's true. The plant is working hard on the inside.
Yes.
Now,
The plant has to actively expend biological energy to, reach its leaves toward the light and pull water up from the soil.
so it's quiet, but it's not lazy.
Exactly. The crucial takeaway is that the daily work is quiet, it's microscopic, and it's totally unglamorous. But it is fundamentally active. You still have to show up and do the cellular work.
That is such a vital distinction. It isn't magic, it's mechanics.
Well put.
And if I can build on that, I feel like the movie moment is exactly like a lightning strike.
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Well,
Like it's flashy, it lights up the entire sky, and it feels incredibly powerful in the moment.
but it doesn't last.
Exactly. It's gone in a second, and honestly, it usually just leaves a fire in its way.
Right, a path of destruction.
You cannot power your house on a lightning strike.
No, you can't.
But the daily 1%, the photosynthesis method, it's entirely invisible to the naked eye while it's happening.
Yeah.
Yet that's what builds entire redwood forests.
That's a great way to think about it.
So for you listening right now, if you're relying on that lightning strike motivation to get through your workload or your fitness routine, you're essentially setting yourself up to quit the moment the weather changes.
You're relying on a storm that isn't coming.
Right. But here is the massive psychological hurdle that I think we really have to address. The plant metaphor makes intuitive sense, sure. But human beings are just naturally impatient creatures.
How horribly impatient.
Right. We don't just want the forest to grow. We want to see it growing today. Like right now.
And if we don't see immediate, tangible proof that our effort is working, what happens?
We panic.
Our rational brain starts screaming that we're just wasting our time.
Which is exactly why the mathematics of this philosophy are so essential. The math forces the rational brain to actually trust the process.
It overrides the panic.
Yeah, and the breakdown of the 1% compounding rule in this source is just mind-bending.
The math is where this whole concept shifts from just a nice motivational theory into an indisputable law of physics.
Okay, let's break it down.
We have to understand the difference between linear addition and exponential growth.
Right, because our brains default to linear.
Exactly. The human brain is wired to think linearly. Like if I save $1 a day, in 10 days I have $10. Very simple.
Simple math.
But the 1% rule operates on compounding, much like earning interest in a high-yield bank account.
Oh, right. Compounding interest.
Yes. When you improve by 1% today, tomorrow's 1% isn't calculated on your original baseline. It's calculated based on that new, slightly higher baseline.
So the amount of growth gets bigger every day.
It snowballs. That is how, mathematically, 1% daily improvement over 365 days does not equal a 365% improvement.
Right. It's not just adding 1 plus 1 plus 1.
No. It equals a 3,700% improvement.
Which is just insane to think about.
You become 37 times better at whatever you're tracking.
37 times. I mean, think about that. If you could get a 37x return on a financial investment in 1 year, you'd be a billionaire.
You'd be on the cover of Forbes.
Right. But when we apply it to ourselves, we completely miss the miracle of the math because of how it looks in the short term.
Because the short term is so deceiving.
Yeah. The source material offers this brilliant visual. They say your daily 1% looks exactly like putting 1 drop of water in a glass.
Just 1 drop.
You do your 10 minutes of Spanish or you do your 10 push-ups and you drop the water in. But then you look at the glass and it still looks completely empty.
And this right here, this empty glass phase, is the graveyard of human potential.
The graveyard. Wow.
It really is. This phase is what psychologists call the valley of disappointment.
The valley of disappointment. It sounds bleak.
It is bleak. You're putting in the effort, you're taking the daily action, but because the compounding curve starts out incredibly flat, the results are entirely invisible to you.
So you feel like you're failing, even when you're doing it right.
Exactly. Your dopamine system, which is looking for that immediate I ate the berry reward, looks at the empty glass and signals to your brain, this is failing. Abort the mission to save energy.
Okay, let me pause here and advocate for the listener who is sitting in their car or at their desk right now feeling exactly like this.
The ones deep in the valley.
Yes, because the math sounds great, but practically speaking, how does our listener actually measure 1%?
Right. It's a fair question.
If my goal is to be like a better public speaker or to be a bit more patient parent, I can't mathematically calculate 1% of patients. It feels way too ambiguous to track.
It feels ambiguous because we're still looking for the mountain. We're still looking for a giant measurable leap.
We want to see the whole mountain.
Right. But what is so deeply insightful from Anna and Jake's breakdown is the assertion that the exact measurement doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't matter.
No. The tiny, seemingly insignificant difference of the micro-action itself, that is the dividing line between someone who feels chronically stuck in a rut and someone who starts to glow with new momentum.
Stuck in a rut versus glowing. I love that phrasing.
You don't need a spreadsheet to track 1% of patients.
So what does 1% of patients look like?
1% of patients might just be taking one single deep breath before responding to your toddler.
Just one breath.
That is the drop of water.
Yeah.
It's the qualitative shift in behavior, not just a quantitative metric.
The micro-action is the victory itself.
Precisely.
So think about your own day right now. Yeah. What are your drops of water? What is that tiny positive daily action that you just keep abandoning simply because the glass still looks empty on day 6?
We all have them.
Because knowing the math of compounding actually reveals this new kind of terrifying problem.
Oh, what's that?
If the glass still looks empty on day 14, your willpower is absolutely going to run out. You will stop putting the drops in.
That is the ultimate risk.
Right. So how on earth does someone survive that invisible phase of the valley of disappointment without quitting?
That is the most critical question of this entire deep dive. How do you sustain the action when there is no visible reward?
Because willpower just isn't enough.
And that's exactly the answer. The answer requires a complete departure from the concept of willpower entirely.
Throw willpower out the window.
Yes. Willpower is a finite resource. It literally depletes throughout the day. To survive the valley, you have to stop focusing on what you are trying to do and completely hack your own psychology to change who you believe you are.
Okay. This brings us to the profound concept of the identity switch.
The identity switch. This is where it gets really deep.
It really changes the game.
Yeah.
And they reference James Clear's work in Atomic Habits here, highlighting that our daily habits are ultimately what shape our identity.
Which is a brilliant connection to make.
They use a beautifully simple example.
Yeah.
If you just read a book in English for 10 minutes every night, you eventually stop telling yourself, I'm bad at English. And you shift your internal monologue to, I am a reader.
We really need to unpack the cognitive psychology behind that shift.
Yes, let's do it.
Because when you walk around telling yourself, I am bad at English, or I am lazy, or I am terrible with money.
Which we all do. constantly.
Constantly. You are locking yourself into what Dr. Carol Dweck defines as a fixed mindset.
A fixed mindset.
Right. You are signaling to your brain that these traits are permanent genetic facts, that you can't change them.
Like eye color.
Exactly. But when you execute that tiny 10-minute habit, you introduce cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. The brain hates that.
It despises it. Your brain says, wait a minute, I believe I'm bad at this, but I am currently taking action to improve it.
The action contradicts the belief.
Yes. And to resolve that dissonance, your brain slowly begins to adopt a growth mindset. It literally rewrites the narrative to fit the action you're taking.
Wow. And when that narrative changes, the concept of friction completely disappears.
Friction is the perfect word for it.
Yeah, the material points out that once your identity shifts, you no longer have to fight yourself to do the habit because you're simply acting in alignment with the person you believe you are.
Think about the sheer mental energy it takes to force yourself to go to the gym when you fundamentally believe, I am an out-of-shape person who hates exercise.
Oh, it's exhausting before you even put on your shoes.
Right. Every single step is a battle against your own self-concept. You are dragging a heavy anchor.
Yeah.
But if your identity is, I am an athlete, even a beginner athlete, putting on your running shoes isn't a massive chore requiring enormous willpower.
Because it's just what you do.
It is just an expression of your natural identity. It's what an athlete does. The psychological anchor is gone.
Okay, let me push back on this a bit, though.
Please do.
Because I can hear the skepticism from anyone who has tried and failed to change their habits. Can you really just trick your adult, fully formed brain into a completely new identity with a measly 10-minute habit?
It sounds a bit too easy, right?
Yeah, sounds a little like toxic positivity. You know, just standing in the mirror saying, I am a champion, while doing the bare minimum,
I see the concern.
if I can propose an analogy.
Oh.
It feels like acting in a high school play.
Okay, run with that.
At first, you walk out on stage, you put on the costume, and you're just reciting lines. You
Yeah.
feel entirely fake. You were just doing the 10 minutes, but you feel like an absolute imposter.
I see exactly where you're going with that, but let's refine the analogy because it is so much more powerful than just faking it.
Okay, how's that?
You aren't just reciting lines to fool an audience. You are actively gathering undeniable empirical evidence for a new self-concept.
Gathering evidence. Oh, I like that.
Yes! On day one of the play, sure, you feel like an imposter. But if you recite those lines, stand on your mark, and wear that costume every single night for 60 days,
The brain adapts.
the neuroplasticity of your brain begins to physically rewire itself. The repetition builds new neural pathways.
So you stop acting.
You internalize the character's reactions so deeply that the cognitive dissonance just fades away. You stop acting. You simply become the character.
You are gathering evidence. That makes so much sense. So let's bring this right back to the listener.
Yeah, let's apply it.
Think about the self-limiting beliefs you're carrying around right now. The labels you've just accepted about yourself. I'm not a morning person. I'm a procrastinator. I'm just naturally anxious.
We hold on to those labels so tightly.
We really do.
Mm-hmm.
But those are not immutable laws of physics. They are very likely just the compounded result of a fixed mindset built by years of unintentional negative habits.
Decades of them sometimes.
Yeah. And the incredibly empowering truth is that, just like the character in the play, you can reverse engineer a completely new identity simply by changing the tiny 10-minute lines you practice today.
It is incredibly empowering. It puts the control back in your hands. But
As with any major psychological shift, there is a very practical, real-world defense mechanism that people will instantly throw up to avoid doing this work.
oh, I know exactly what it is.
I bet you do.
It's the ultimate excuse. It's the excuse I use, and it's the excuse you listening probably use every single day.
I simply do not have the time. Exactly, I don't have the time. We are working long hours, commuting, raising kids, trying to maintain relationships. We are exhausted.
The modern condition.
Right. And the idea of adding another self-improvement task to the to-do list feels like a cruel joke.
It feels impossible.
But what is so fascinating is how precisely this material destroys the lack of time excuse using cold, hard math.
It really obliterates the excuse entirely. Let's look at the actual numbers here.
Lay out the math for us.
1% of a 24-hour day is exactly 14 minutes and 24 seconds.
Wow. Okay, let's round it to 14 minutes.
We're talking about finding 14 minutes in a day that contains 1,440 of them.
When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous to say we don't have time.
It does, and the framework introduces this gorgeous concept called pocket time.
Pocket time, I love this.
It asks us to treat these 14 minutes not as a single intimidating block of time.
Because sitting down for 14 straight minutes still feels hard sometimes.
Right. Instead, view them as small, forgotten coins that you find in your pocket throughout the day.
Time is coins. This completely shifted my perspective.
It's so practical.
Because Anna and Jake give these deeply relatable examples. You have a 5-minute coin while waiting for the bus.
Right.
A 7-minute coin while washing the dinner dishes. A 3-minute coin standing in the kitchen just waiting for your coffee to brew.
What is so vital about this framing is its profound empathy for the messy reality of modern life.
Empathy, yes. Because most self-help stuff is so rigid.
Most self-help books demand that you wake up at 4:30 a.m. and dedicate an hour of unbroken silence to meditation and journaling.
Which is just a fantasy for most working adults.
Complete fantasy. By fracturing the 14 minutes into a 5 here, a 7 there, and a 3 over there, it completely removes the pressure of perfection.
It makes it doable.
It acknowledges that your day is chaotic, but argues that within that chaos, there is hidden, untapped wealth.
But then they point out the great modern tragedy of pocket time.
Oh, the trash.
We find these little 3-minute and 5-minute coins, and instead of investing them, we throw them straight into the trash.
Straight in the bin.
By pulling out our phones and doom scrolling.
And we have to analyze why we do this. Because it isn't just a lack of discipline.
Right, it's not a moral failing.
No, it's a biological response to fatigue. When you find yourself with 3 minutes waiting for the coffee machine, your brain is already processing a million tabs.
It's tired.
It is deeply fatigued. It does not want to expend the cognitive energy required to make a complex decision about how to be productive in that tiny window.
So it looks for the easiest option.
It takes the absolute path of least resistance. And social media is expertly engineered to provide a zero-friction, immediate dopamine hit.
Ah, the berry hit again.
Exactly. You throw the time coin in the trash because scrolling is the default state of an exhausted mind.
Which perfectly sets up the solution they provide. They call it the tiny plan, or the GPS strategy.
The GPS strategy is brilliant.
They argue that having a vague, massive goal, like, I want to improve my English or I want to be healthier, is like getting into a car and just driving without a destination.
You just drive in circles.
Right, because it requires too much on-the-spot decision-making.
Exactly.
But a tiny plan is like plugging a highly precise address into your brain's GPS. So instead of get healthy, it's, I will do 20 squats while the coffee brews.
Or I will learn 3 new vocabulary words today.
It's a precise, entirely unintimidating address.
The brilliance of the GPS strategy is that it completely eliminates the cognitive load of decision-making.
You don't have to think about it.
Right. If your tiny plan is already locked in the night before, then when that 3-minute window opens up, you don't have to decide what to do. The fear and the friction vanish.
Your internal GPS already knows exactly where to direct your energy. You just execute the tiny preloaded plan.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to step in and play devil's advocate here on behalf of our exhausted listeners.
Bring it on.
Because sometimes, isn't throwing those coins in the trash exactly what we need? Doesn't the brain require rest?
It absolutely does.
Right. If I am constantly trying to optimize every 3-minute window of my life, aren't I just going to burn out faster? And realistically, is 14 fractured minutes really enough to buy something massive like fluency in a language or a career transition?
That is an incredibly important pushback, and we absolutely must differentiate between true rest and numbing out.
Ooh, resting versus numbing.
Okay, yes, the brain desperately needs restorative rest. But scrolling through outrage-inducing news headlines for 3 minutes while waiting for a bus is not restorative.
It actually feels worse sometimes.
It actually spikes your cortisol and leaves you feeling more anxious and drained.
Okay, that's true.
True rest is stepping outside and looking at the sky for 3 minutes without a screen.
Which is harder than it sounds.
It is, but that is a valid use of pocket time. The framework argues that intentionally investing those fragmented minutes into a tiny plan actually generates a sense of efficacy and energy that numbing out never will.
So action creates energy.
Exactly. And as for whether 14 minutes is enough,
Yeah, does it actually add up to fluency?
remember the math. It compounds. 14 minutes a day is over 85 hours a year.
85 hours.
You can absolutely change the trajectory of your life in 85 focused hours.
That makes so much sense. Doom scrolling is numbing, not resting.
Precisely.
And to add to the GPS analogy,
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about a GPS is that it is completely emotionally detached.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, your GPS doesn't yell at you if you drive under the speed limit. It doesn't judge your character if you hit traffic or take a wrong turn.
Recalculating.
Exactly. It simply reroutes. It cares only that you are generally moving toward the destination.
It doesn't judge you.
It doesn't. So here's a direct challenge for you listening. I want you to mentally audit your day tomorrow.
Audit the day.
Where are your 3, 5, and 7-minute coins hiding? And what specific tiny GPS address can you plug into those slots tonight so you don't throw them in the trash tomorrow?
It is a phenomenal practical exercise.
It really is.
However, we do have to prepare the listener for the inevitable resistance.
Because it's not going to be smooth sailing.
No. Because even if you have your GPS locked in and your pockets are just full of time coins, there are active forces that then try to run your car off the road.
Yes, the roadblocks. And the source material has a great name for these. They call them the dream thieves.
Dream thieves. It's a very evocative term.
These are the forces that swoop in to steal your 1%.
And they categorize these dream thieves into two distinct camps.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, you have the external distractions, the social media algorithms, the constant barrage of emails, the societal noise we just discussed.
The stuff outside our control, mostly.
Right. But the far more insidious thieves are the internal ones, the self-sabotage.
The ones inside our own heads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically, the twin demons of overthinking and perfectionism.
Oh, perfectionism is the absolute killer of the 1% rule.
It destroys it.
The text explicitly points out how many of us wait around for the perfect moment to start. We tell ourselves we can't start exercising until we have the perfect gym gear.
Or we can't start the business until the website is flawless.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the antidote they provide is blunt. They say imperfect action is always better than no action.
We really need to unmask perfectionism for what it truly is here.
Yeah, the mask off.
Because we love to wear perfectionism as a badge of honor. We go to job interviews and say, oh, my biggest weakness is that I just have incredibly high standards.
Yeah, it's like it's a humble brag.
Exactly. But psychologically, perfectionism is almost always just a highly sophisticated, socially acceptable disguise for procrastination.
Wow. A disguise for procrastination.
It is rooted in a deep fear of failure and judgment, because if you wait for the perfect moment, you never have to face the vulnerability of being a beginner and doing something poorly.
You can't fail if you never actually start.
Exactly. You stay safe, but you stay stagnant.
We use our high standards to protect our egos. It's wild when you realize it.
It's a defense mechanism.
And the antidote they offer is a mantra I think everyone needs printed on their wall. Done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect.
They emphasize that showing up daily, even if it's messy, builds momentum. And they use this fantastic physics metaphor of a moving bicycle to explain how momentum works.
It's a flawless application of physics to human behavior.
How so?
Well, let's look at the mechanics of riding a bicycle. The absolute hardest, most physically taxing part of riding a bike is the very first pedal push from a complete dead stop.
Right, because you're fighting gravity and stillness.
You have to overcome static friction. You're wobbly, it takes immense force from your legs, and you feel entirely unstable.
That's the first day of the habit.
Exactly. But once those wheels complete a few rotations, you transition into kinetic friction.
Ah, kinetic friction.
Yes. Momentum takes over. The kinetic energy begins to sustain itself, and suddenly it requires a fraction of the effort to just keep the bike gliding forward.
You're just cruising.
Right. The neurological habit loop functions exactly the same way. The first day of the new habit is agonizing.
And the 20th day.
The 20th day is a glide.
Okay, I love the momentum concept, but I have to ask a provocative question about this done is better than perfect mantra.
Go for it.
If we constantly tell ourselves that messy action is fine, don't we run the risk of just doing sloppy, terrible work forever?
Like we're just accepting subpar results.
Yeah. Aren't we just lowering our standards and celebrating mediocrity?
It is a very fair concern, and honestly, it's a trap many people fall into. But the resolution is found in a key word the source material emphasizes.
Which is?
Flexible.
Flexible.
Yes. You have to separate the goal of the macro project from the goal of the micro daily habit.
Oh, that's a good distinction.
The goal of the 1% rule today is not to produce a flawless masterpiece. The sole purpose of today's 14 minutes is simply to keep the habit loop alive.
Keep the wheels turning?
Exactly.
Right.
It is to keep the bicycle moving, even if it's moving slowly.
So perfectionism stops the bike.
If you demand absolute perfection every single day, then the first Tuesday you are tired, sick, or stressed, you will produce nothing. You will quit.
And the bike falls over.
the bicycle stops entirely, and you have to fight that brutal static friction all over again tomorrow.
Your dream doesn't need a perfect you. It needs a you who comes back again and again.
That's the quote.
I think that completely reorients the goal. It is not about accepting a sloppy job forever. It is about accepting a messy 14-minute start today so that you maintain the momentum required to be brilliant next month.
Yes.
And the source gives us this incredibly powerful motto to anchor this idea. I'm coming slowly, but I'm coming.
I'm coming slowly, but I'm coming. If we deeply internalize that phrase, it transforms from a simple quote into a radical, necessary act of self-compassion.
It really is self-compassion.
It provides the listener with a completely new metric for success. Because under the old mountain paradigm, missing a day or having a low-energy workout was a catastrophic failure.
It proved you were weak.
Right. But under the 1% paradigm, a bad day isn't a failure unless it stops the bicycle permanently.
So success is just
Success is no longer defined as achieving mastery immediately. Success is simply defined as remaining in motion.
remaining in motion. That is the true victory.
Absolutely.
And as we move into the final section of this material, the source actually distills all of these massive concepts, the exponential math, the identity stuff, the pocket time economics, the physics of momentum, into a deeply practical core operating system.
Brings it all together.
Right. They conclude with what they describe as a calm word tour, laying out the 4 fundamental pillars of the 1% philosophy.
These 4 words are brilliant because they operate as a sequential, chronological framework.
Like a checklist.
You can literally use them as a checklist for your daily behavior.
Okay, let's analyze them sequentially. The first pillar is intentional.
Intentional.
They define this as doing something explicitly on purpose, rather than by accident.
Shifting from living by accident to living on purpose.
When you hear that, it hits hard.
It really does.
Think about how many days we just accidentally drift through.
Yeah.
You wake up, you immediately check your phone, and suddenly you are just reacting to the world.
They're playing defense.
Right. You react to emails, you react to news notifications, you react to other people's emergencies, and you go to sleep completely forgetting your own goals.
Living by accident is really the default state of the modern world.
It is.
Precisely. To be intentional is to violently grab the steering wheel of your own attention, even if just for those 14 minutes. It is an assertion of autonomy.
Okay, grab the steering wheel. That's pillar 1.
Once you have the steering wheel, you move to the second pillar. Consistent.
Consistent.
And the crucial caveat here is that consistency does not mean intensity.
That's a huge difference.
They compare it to brushing your teeth.
I love that comparison because you completely remove the emotional weight from the habit.
You do.
You don't stand in the bathroom waiting for a grand witty moment or a lightning strike of motivation to brush your teeth.
I'm just not inspired to brush my teeth today.
Right. You don't beat yourself up if you brush them a little less enthusiastically on a Tuesday. It's just a fundamental, non-negotiable part of your baseline identity.
Exactly. You neutralize the emotion. So intentionality is grabbing the steering wheel. Consistency is keeping the wheels turning.
That brings us to the third pillar, mindset.
Specifically, the growth mindset we discussed earlier.
The text explicitly identifies this as the engine of the entire 1% rule.
And that fits the vehicle analogy perfectly.
If you are steering and the wheels are rolling, the growth mindset is the combustion engine actually providing the forward thrust.
The thrust forward.
Because it's the deep-seated belief that your tiny, boring drops of water will actually result in growth, which is the only thing that prevents you from turning the car around when you are driving through the valley of disappointment.
Right. Without the engine of a growth mindset, the first 3 pillars just collapse under the weight of pessimism.
That makes sense. And finally, the fourth pillar, which completely changes our relationship with our own lives. Invest. The source demands a fundamental reframing of how we view our time. You're no longer spending 20 minutes on a task or spending your 14 pocket time minutes. You are investing them.
The language we use to describe our lives dictates how we live them.
Yes. When you spend something, whether it's $20 or 20 minutes, it is gone forever. It is a sunk cost.
It's just gone.
But when you invest something, you are putting it into a vehicle that you expect to yield a return.
A return on investment.
And the return on investment for your daily 14-minute habit is that staggering 37 times upgraded future version of yourself.
It is a complete paradigm shift in time management.
As we break down these pillars, part of me wonders if being this hyper-intentional, tracking every 3-minute pocket of time, actually ruins the spontaneity and joy of life.
Oh, like it makes you rigid.
Yeah. Like if I am a walking GPS, constantly calculating investments, do I just become a joyless robot?
It's a valid worry.
But then I realized the paradox of this whole system. Investing just 14 highly intentional minutes a day actually buys you the freedom and the profound peace of mind to be completely, wildly spontaneous with the other 23 hours and 46 minutes of your day.
Because the work is done.
Exactly. You can go for a walk, watch a movie, or just sit on the couch without that awful, lingering guilt hanging over your head because, fundamentally, your 1% is handled.
The plant is watered.
The plant is watered. So I have to ask you, the listener, directly. Are you being intentional with your 1% today, or are you just letting the day happen to you by accident?
That is the ultimate diagnostic question for the listener to carry forward.
And what I appreciate so much about this source material is that it doesn't just leave us swimming in philosophical questions. It leaves us with a highly actionable, immediate challenge.
The final step.
At the very end of their script, Anna and Jake challenge their listeners to formulate a specific, tiny 1% goal and state it incredibly clearly.
Read it out loud.
Yeah, they ask you to literally say out loud or write down, my 1% goal today is...
There is a very specific, deeply documented psychological mechanism at play in that final instruction.
What's the mechanism?
Well, when a goal is just floating in your head, it uses a very small amount of neural real estate.
It's just a thought.
Right. But stating the goal aloud or physically writing it down forces your brain to utilize entirely different language and motor processing centers.
It makes it physical.
As the source beautifully notes, it helps you respect your dream a little more. By articulating it, you drag the goal out of the abstract, foggy realm of your imagination and forge a concrete, binding contract with yourself in the physical world.
You make it real.
Exactly.
So let's look back at the massive terrain we've covered today.
We covered a lot.
We started by dropping the crushing, paralyzing burden of that huge mountain. We let go of the toxic pressure to wait for a flashy, lightning strike movie moment.
Good riddance.
Instead, we embraced the quiet, boring, but unstoppable mechanics of growing a plant. We learned that the math of 1% daily effort doesn't just add up. It exponentially multiplies into a 37 times transformation.
Provided we don't quit in the valley of disappointment.
Right. We learned how to gather up our dropped pocket time coins, map out a tiny GPS plan to avoid decision fatigue, and fight off the dream thieves of perfectionism with messy, imperfect momentum.
The bicycle.
And we did all of this to essentially reverse engineer a completely new identity from the ground up.
It is a comprehensive blueprint for sustainable change.
It really is.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with a final, perhaps slightly provocative thought.
Ooh, okay.
It is something that isn't explicitly stated in the source, but it is heavily implied by the sheer mathematical logic of everything we've explored today.
I love a provocative paradigm shift. Lay it on us.
Yeah.
What is the final takeaway?
Well, we have spent this entire hour talking about how positive 1% changes compound exponentially to make you 37 times better over a single year.
Yes, the miracle of compounding.
But we have to remember that mathematical formulas are completely agnostic.
Agnostic, meaning what?
The math works identically in both directions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If you are sitting there right now listening to my voice and you feel totally stuck, or you feel overwhelmed by negative habits, or you feel like you're just constantly failing, I want you to realize something profound.
What is that?
Your current self, your current frustrations, and your current perceived flaws are not permanent genetic defects.
Yeah, fixed.
No. They are very likely just the compounded result of tiny, unintentional 1% choices you've been making in the wrong direction over a long period of time.
Oh my goodness.
You aren't fundamentally broken. You don't have a defective personality. You have just been compounding the wrong interest.
Compounding the wrong interest.
And the incredibly beautiful, freeing truth of this math is that you can change the entire direction of that compounding curve starting today with your very next 14 minutes.
You aren't fundamentally broken. You've just been compounding the wrong interest.
Wow.
If that doesn't completely change how you view your own potential, I don't know what will.
It changes everything.
Thank you so much for sharing your loose pocket time coins with us today. It truly means the world that you chose to invest these minutes here with us intentionally.
We appreciate it.
Remember that huge, terrifying, exhausting mountain we talked about at the very beginning of the show? You don't have to climb it today. You don't even have to look at the peak. Just take your tiny, messy, imperfect first step and water the plant. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.